meditations of our mind. Take every agenda and put to our hearts. Father God, that every decision we make will make you happy. Father God, we give you all praise and glory. We thank you so much. Thank you for being our God, and we're your servant, our Father, and we your little children. Praying that you will fill this place with your spirit. Please forgive us of all our sins, that our talk and our walk would glorify you. Oh, Father, in Jesus' name will we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, you have before you a copy of the written agenda. Are there any proposed revisions to the agenda as written?
Recognize that, Mayor.
Alderman Vaughn.
About the board business. A, move the consent, please.
All right. That is the approval of the adoption and implementation of the tax increment financing plan of the cotton mill. I got it. As amended June 2008 and as restated March 2014 as presented. Alderman Vaughn, that is a matter that requires a public hearing. So if it's going to go on consent, I'll need to offer an opportunity for the public to be heard before it goes on consent. Is that okay with you?
That's
prior to
fine with me.
proceeding? All right.
Yes, sir.
At this time, is there anyone who came that wishes to speak about the proposed amendments to the TIF plan? What Alderman Vaughn has proposed is placing those matters on the consent agenda. And what will happen is if those matters are placed on the consent agenda and the board approves the consent agenda, then that matter will be approved. So if anyone is wishing to be heard on that matter, now would be your last chance potentially before they are approved. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard on that matter? Anyone that wishes to be heard?
Sanders is strong, Ward 2. I just would like for y'all to clarify for those of us who didn't either wade through all the documents or want to hear it one more time, what the timing of the issuance would be. Will it occur after the project is complete and we can value the project and assess the sales taxes that are generated, which is the intent of an incremental financing. So the timing of the issuance, if you could clarify that. And two, if you could speak to the city's liability should the project for some reason not go forward.
The developer's consultant on the project, Jimmy Gurris, is here tonight, and he is the expert on both how the tax increment finance process works and how this development will proceed. So, Jimmy, I think you're the best person to field those questions.
Okay. Should I come forward?
Please approach.
I'll understand. If that's right. Typically, with tax increment financing projects, when the developer will go out and spend his money to make the improvements that are going to be paid for with tax increment financing, and then the city will reimburse the developer. So when the developer builds his project and at the time that it's ready on the tax rolls, bond counsel will go to tax assessor. You'll get a certificate from the tax assessor stating how much project would be put on the rolls for, so that he then knows definitely, without guessing, how much it's going to go on the rolls for and how much property tax would be available to service debt. Sales tax takes a little more time. There has to be a history developed, typically 6 months or so, maybe even a year sometimes. The businesses are operating, generating sales tax, and the real number can then be available for bonds to be issued. It can't be a guess. It has to be, the taxes have to be ascertained with some certainty. As far as the liability of the city, well, number one, we also anticipate that the county will participate in this deal plan. The liability that's a good question. What I tell folks, what the law says, is that the tax increment financing debt obligations are not a pecuniary liability of the city or county under any constitutional meaning of the word. So the only pledge of the city and the county is the pledge of the property taxes and the sales tax generated by the project. I happen to have, I'm not an attorney, but I have the opinion that because of what I just said to you, that in the event that property taxes are not paid, that it is questionable in my mind as to whether the city and the county could come out of the general fund and pay the bond note. Typically, though, I've done over 100 tax increment financing deals. It's not happened yet, but that's how I speak to the liability issue.
It's an ongoing conversation, and I just think it's important for people to hear that.
It is. And some financial advisors, I have a very dear friend, Emory Grubbs, who is financial advisor to Starkville and other communities. Emory says that in all likelihood that if taxes were not paid on the property for a year or so, then probably the city would step up and make that payment. And then if somebody's gonna pay the taxes, or the city ends up with a nice hotel, and ends up with some development. So it's not, the risk is minimal, it's not any risk at all.
Thank you, Mr. Doris.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to make comments? Anyone else wishing to make comments? Anyone else wishing to make comments? All right, seeing none, that will conclude the public comment period, and this matter is now eligible to be placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn has proposed revising the consent agenda to place this matter on it. Is there any objection to placing that matter on the consent agenda? Any objection to placing the tax increment finance plan as presented on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn, do you have further proposed revisions?
Board Business B.
That does not require a separate vote.
consent.
All right. The proposed revision from Alderman Vaughn is to place a resolution regarding a second and amended and restated development and reimbursement agreement regarding Cotton Mill Marketplace project as presented on the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, it is.
Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Saying none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn, do you have further proposed revisions?
On the Board Business C.
All right, proposed revision from Alderman Vaughn is to place the approval of an agreement between Ramsey Partners LP and the City of Starkville relating to road infrastructure at the Claiborne at Adelaide LLC as presented on the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Vaughn, do you have further proposed
We
revisions?
have a correction upon Mayor's Business A. The agenda read discussion of consideration and amendment order and cost and saving agreement with the corporate cost and solution English. But the subject would be different, would read approval. Request for approval to enter into an order and not amend it, so we need to change that language to amend the order.
All right, yeah. Yeah, would you like to speak to the
Sure.
changes and how you would recommend it be styled on the agenda and for approval?
Sure. Alderman Vaughn, this was the contract that the board approved in the last meeting. And the board approved it with the hopes that the vendor would go ahead and approve exactly what the board approved. The vendor wanted to make one change, one sentence change to the contract, saying that the vendor would not be responsible for any additional premiums due to its finding in the audit. The city was fine with that change, and so we amended the proposed contract to include that language that the vendor wanted. And so what's in your packet is literally the amended contract, and it has to be stated as amended because the city approved the original. And so couching it as move approval of the amended agreement between the city and Corporate Cost Solutions would be appropriate.
Okay.
All right, so right now it's on the agenda of an amended audit, so we'll change that to amended agreement.
Well,
with-
it's the same thing, amended audit and cost savings agreement. Remember, they
All right.
performed the audit under the agreement.
Okay, Alderman Vaughn, are you comfortable giving the city attorney's advice?
Yes, sir.
All right, do you have further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Maynard.
Under 11, Department Business Airport, number 4. Pull that from consent. I need to recuse on that vote.
All right. All right, Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
Yes, sir. Under I, Personnel, I'd like to pull item 1 and 2 from consent.
All right, Alderman Maynard, do you have any further proposed revisions?
Just one clarification under Personnel, item 5. Request consideration promotions, police department to fill those positions to be effective immediately per salary schedule approved, and I have a copy of that schedule for the minutes.
All right, would you pass that to the clerk?
Yes.
All right, so the proposed revision to the agenda and the approved matter for the consent agenda with respect to item 11J1. No, excuse me.
11I5.
Item 11I5 would be to add to the end of the matter with the salary scale as documented in the minutes. Alderman Maynard, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Any further proposed revision? Oh, excuse me, is there any objection to that proposed revision? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change. Alderman Little.
Under item 7, under public appearances, I think I saw Mr. Richardson step in. I'm not sure if he's still here. I'd like to move that to executive session.
All right, proposed revision from Alderman Little is to move item 7, a public appearance by Clayton Richardson relating to his proposed development at the corner of Louisville Street and Yellow Jacket Drive, to the executive session portion of the agenda, item 14, placing that under potential litigation. Alderman Little, is that your proposed revision? Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change.
Under item J, under the PD, number 2, I'd like to pull that in the consent. I spoke with Chief earlier today on this, and he's going to tell us a little bit about what they're doing and what their plans are there. Not that I'm objecting to it, just want to hear a little bit more about it.
All right, item 11J2, a request for discussion and consideration of a lease agreement with Amos and Miller Property Management has been removed from the consent agenda. Alderman Little, do you have further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board?
Mr. Mayor, I just need the minutes to reflect on the 2 minute items, A and B under 4, with corrections proposed by the city attorney.
All right, would somebody propose that revision?
So moved.
All right. Alderman Walker has proposed to revise the agenda with respect to items 4A and B, to add to those the language as corrected by the city attorney. Alderman Walker, is that your proposed revision?
Yes.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Saying none, please note the change. Any further proposed revisions to the agenda? Any further proposed revisions to the agenda? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So move.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Okay, we're still good. Motion has been made and seconded by Alderman Nguyen. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. All right, measure clearly passes. Prior to approving the consent agenda, we have 2 matters that the public needs to have an opportunity to be heard on that have been placed on the consent agenda, and those are rezoning matters. Prior to opening the floor for the public, Alderman Walker has asked to speak about a rezoning matter that is in his ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say that the zoning matter involving the Catholic Church in the Nash Street and University Drive neighborhood I wanted to thank the church for working so diligently with the neighborhood. I think it's through a series of meetings, along with significant help from the city engineer and the city planner, Buddy Sanders and Edward Kemp, to help come to an amicable solution that everybody can be happy with. So I'm thankful that the process in this case works. It works for the betterment of the neighborhood, but it also allows the Catholic Church to meet their needs and continue to grow and be a vital part of our neighborhood and the vital part of Starkville. So kudos, the process, while sometimes it's a little messy, it works. And I'd like to especially thank the city staff and the leaders of the church and the leaders of the Nash Street and the College View neighborhood for being willing to work together to come to a solution that makes our neighborhood better. So thank you.
All right, the first of two matters that the public may be heard at this time on is the approval of the Catholic Diocese of Jackson rezoning of lots 16, 17, and 18 of Block 28 with conditions as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is there anyone now that wishes to be heard on that matter? Is there anyone here now that wishes to be heard on that matter? Is there anyone that wishes to be heard? All right, seeing no one, the next matter for the public to be heard on is the approval of the cottages at Starkville Station rezoning of 4.03 acres with conditions as recommended by Planning and Zoning Commission. Is there anyone that wishes to be heard on that matter? Is there anyone now that wishes to be heard on that matter? Is there anyone that wishes to be heard on that matter? All right, seeing no one, the consent agenda is now eligible for adoption. Is there any objection to the consent agenda as revised? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the consent agenda as revised has been adopted. And that will take us to announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board. And I have two new employees that I would like to introduce tonight. First, I'd like to introduce our newest police officer, C.J. Winship. It is my pleasure to welcome C.J. Winship to the Starkville Police Department as one of our newest police officers. C.J. is originally from Laurel, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Ridgeland High School. She is a graduate of Mississippi State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in criminology. Before joining the city of Starkville, C.J. played soccer for MSU as well as semi-professional soccer. She is the daughter of Craig and Jody Winship. She has one sister, Cassie. When CJ isn't working, she enjoys playing soccer, cooking, and reading, as well as spending time with her two chihuahuas, FIFA and Cinnamon. CJ attends Pine Lake Baptist Church in Starkville. Please join me in welcoming CJ. I'd now like to introduce our newest employee in the city clerk's office, Miss Jamaica Smith. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you Jamaica Smith, who has just joined our city clerk's office as the part-time file clerk. She is originally from Thomastown, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Thomastown Attendance Center. She is also a graduate of Meridian Community College and is currently a student at Mississippi State University, where she is majoring in accounting. Before joining the city, Jamaica was a student worker at ABE GED department at Meridian Community College, and she currently serves as a cashier at Walmart in Carthage, Mississippi. Jamaica is the daughter of Cora and the late James Smith. She has four sisters, Shonda, Angela, Wendy, and Cassandra, and one brother, Samuel, plus 17 nieces and nephews. When Jamaica isn't busy studying or working, she enjoys cooking, eating, and relaxing and having fun with her family. Jamaica attends King David Temple Apostolic Church in Carthage. Please join me in welcoming to employees. And that concludes my announcements and comments this evening. Are there any announcements and comments from the members of the board? Alderman Wynn.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to mention, is Chief Nichols in? Chief Nichols, will you please come on down? Good evening. In today's newspaper, everyone, there was a letter to the editor, and the title of it is titled, Rita Praises Community. To the editor, on Saturday, I attended the funeral of a man I never met. James Leonard, a Marine who served in Vietnam, was buried at the Oddfellow Cemetery in Starkville. I cannot express enough gratitude for the respect shown by the Starkville Police Department as they closed intersections for the funeral procession. The officers in Class A uniforms stood at attention as they saluted this Marine veteran and his funeral procession. 3 Marines escorted this fellow Marine to his final rest. 2 sergeants folded the American flag from his coffin with such precision and honor that all present were awed and touched by the respect these Marines paid for one of their own. Taps were played by a real Marine, not a recording. I did not expect to be so moved by the tribute of a man I'd never met. Starkville should be proud of how it treated this hero. Sincerely, Ray West of Phoebe. I just wanted to say thank you so much, Chief, for the job that you and your personnel are doing in the PD. This is what we like to hear. Thanks again.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to give credit where it's due. That was Sergeant Shane Kelly and B Shift, and I credit them for being such a professional staff.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any further comments from the members of the board? Any further comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. We just have a few things that we want to bring to light, and that is the NACP banquet will be on the 26th of April, and the beans and greens will be on the 21st of April. 16th of April. We would like to have everyone to come out and enjoy the voter ID will be implemented and I had a copy placed at your desk for the aldermen to see that you will need this in the coming months. June the 3rd, you will need a voter ID to vote. Thank you.
Mr. Turner. Thank you, Mr. Turner. Any further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments this evening?
Sandy, this is Ward 2 again. I too want to say something nice to Chief Nichols and the police department. We tend to think in terms of crises and real criminal matters, but the Starkville Police Department is very much a part of our community and the day-to-day things that happen within our community. And y'all have a long history of being very professional and good at your jobs. And I've never really fully understood that until I got to know your department a little better over the last few years. But I wanted to let you know, and I wanted to let everyone know that there was a real act of kindness by two of your police officers Sunday morning when they helped a stray dog find its way back home to its parents. The dog was from Long Meadow subdivision, had gotten loose, and the pet owner is happy to have Curly back home, and Curly's glad to be back home. And we in the neighborhood were touched by how well your officers performed, even this simple daily activity. But they were terrific, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate all that the police department does, all that all the city workers do.
Thank you, Alderman Sistrunk. Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments? All right, seeing none, that will conclude our citizen comment period, and the next matter you have before you is a request to enter into a lease agreement with Matt Oakley to lease approximately 66 acres of the southern portion of the airport. We will offer Alderman Maynard a moment to exit the room prior to discussing this matter. And that is as presented at the table.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to enter into a lease agreement as presented at the table with Matt Oakley to lease approximately 66 acres of the southern portion of the airport property at George N. Bryan Airfield to grow and harvest soybeans. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter before you is the request the request for discussion and consideration to advertise to fill a vacant position of deputy clerk and accounting assistant in the city clerk's office. Excuse me, you've got the request for approval of the claims document. Discussion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket, including the electric department as of March 26, 2014 for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2014 as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second? Second. Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. You now have before you discussion and consideration of the request to advertise and fill the position of deputy clerk, accounting assistant in the clerk's office. Ms. Harden, would you like to introduce?
The two positions in the city clerk's office, the first one is to, the second one, the first one is to replace Debbie Clark, who is retiring April 30th. And the second is to replace the position that I previously held before becoming city clerk. And I'm also asking to kind of revamp that position into being a grants coordinator for the city of Starkville, maybe to write some small grants, but also to kind of get all the grants located in one location, centralized, so that they're easier to track and to get reporting more timely. And that's my proposal for these two positions.
Discussion. Alderman Maynard.
I want to point out that in redoing these two positions, we will come up with a savings in the personnel office of around $10,000. We are reclassifying the deputy clerk accounting assistant position down to a grade 11 from a grade 15? From a grade 15. So by doing that and then revamping this additional position for a grant supervisor, we're still experiencing a cost savings there in that office. That's the reason I pulled it off consent. I wanted to point that fact out.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve the advertisement to fill a position of deputy clerk accounting assistant in the city clerk's office as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have on your agenda is request for consideration to advertise to fill the position of Deputy Clerk Grants Coordinator. Discussion.
So move.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve the advertisement to fill a position of Deputy Clerk Grants Coordinator in the City Clerk's office as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is a request for discussion and consideration of a lease agreement with Amos and Miller Property Management, LLC. Chief, would you like to introduce?
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen. We do have a chance to acquire another substation. This substation is down on Louisville Street, which is old Highway 25. It's owned by Judge Amos. He has agreed to lease this apartment to us, which we're going to turn into an office, for nothing. We'll turn it into a substation. We're going to put computers in there, cameras, alarm system. At this location, we do consider this to be a high crime area. We have some illegal activity going on. If you remember back in December 2010, this is the same apartment complex that burned, and I think it was 6 people that got killed, 9 people that got killed in it. This is that same apartment complex. We wanted a location on the south side of town for quicker response. We have a, say for instance, if we have a call down Highway 25, well, Louisville Street, an officer can go there, finish that report, send that report, email it to the station, still remain out in town and not have to come way back to the station. A lot of times what they'll do is come to the station to complete their reports and get a call down South Montgomery somewhere. So now they're still in that same sector. Quicker response time, visibility in that area, which I said earlier is a high crime area.
Discussion. Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, Chief, I strongly support this request. I'm going to move approval in a second, but this is in keeping with your goal and mission statement when you came before the board initially at the time of the interview, and you certainly have moved very aggressively, and I certainly appreciate that. And this will be the second one to be open in our community in a matter of just weeks. The first one was open at 151 Alfred Perkins Street in Ward 7. So this is very good leadership, and we appreciate you, and the police is here to serve and protect all of the citizens. And you indicated that you would move for our approval for a substation throughout the city. So
Yes,
in keeping with that, and it seemed like that was accepted, in my opinion, unanimously by the board at that time. So, Mr. Mayor, I move approval of this request.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to approve of a lease agreement with Amos and Miller Property Management, LLC as presented. Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Perkins, you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Alderman Little?
I just had one question for the record, for the city attorney. Is everything okay? Is that your red lines that we saw on the lease agreement? Is
Yeah.
everything okay there?
We got the proposed lease agreement last week, and I did make well, we got it in PDF, so I couldn't amend it in Word. And I did make handwritten changes to paragraph 19 and 21. Paragraph 19 had an unlawful indemnification provision. Paragraph 21 had an unlawful limitation of liability. And so we requested a clean version, hadn't got that back yet. And so if the board acts on it tonight, you will simply approve the contract with the strike-throughs. And what we'll do on the back end is we'll either both initial those strike-throughs, and this will be the draft, or Judge Amos can provide me a clean draft based on what you approved tonight, and we'll put that draft in the minutes.
Thank you. I just wanted the record to reflect that.
Good question.
Alderman Walker?
Chief, I too support this, the idea of the branch satellite offices in town for the reasons that you state. My question would be, if the lease is going to be, sounds very positive in the sense that it's, we're not out money, but we are having to staff, which I understand is we're already paying for that, but the equipment and the upgrade, is that something that's going to be, that you have in this year's budget to be able to do, and how quickly do you anticipate this office being operational?
Equipment, furniture. The furnishing will be donated to us by the Columbus Air Force Base. So we don't have to spend any money on furnishing. We will have to spend approximately $200 a month for the internet service and alarm service.
But that's money in your budget that you have
Yes, sir.
to cover that.
Yes, sir.
Alderman Carver.
I do remember you telling us about this, and I still got the notes. What is your, I guess I got a couple questions. What are your plans eventually? How many substations do you envision? Was it 5?
4.
4?
4, yes, sir.
Okay. Kind of just gonna, you got one on Perkins?
Well, I
Boulevard?
got one on the north side and one on the south side. I want one on the east and one on the west.
Okay.
And that's just for quicker response time. You know, we're gaining apartment buildings, you know, at a high rate. And every time we take a report, we'd have to come to the station to finish that report. Now we just stay in the field.
They can just come in, fill the paperwork out, send it, and stay in the area?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Without having to come to the station. Only time we'll need to come to the station is at the end of the shift, beginning and end of the shift.
Okay, and my other question was, again, I'm for the idea, I just wanted to put, as a constituent, I guess, will each officer be given a key? I mean, you're gonna have each officer given a key? I know it's
Yes,
got an
sir.
alarm system.
Each officer will have a key.
And they'll come
and the
in,
code.
turn the keypad off and or
Yes, sir.
whatever, and then get in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And that concludes the open session portion of the agenda. You do have measures potentially for your consideration in executive session. Do I hear a motion to go into closed session? I hear a motion from Alderman Vaughn to go into closed session to determine whether there is a need for executive session. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. This time, I'll ask that the public clear the room so the board can begin closed session deliberation.